And we're going to do a recording, a set of 3 recordings within this Facebook Live broadcast. So hello, everybody on Facebook Live. We are live with 3 guests today. This is the new format. I call it a talk show format, and I am very excited to bring this to you today, especially if we get on top of all the little technical issues that we have had. We've got Bogomil, Galya, and Heather. I'm unmuting all 3 of you so that you can say hi very quickly, and then we're going to dive right into Bogomil's interview.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
All right, so
Hello.
we had a extended time of debugging some of these things, and it's still not the way that I ultimately want it, like I used to have it with the side-by-side. But we're going to make the best of all of this. I have my little spreadsheet right here. Bogomil, let me practice your bio very quickly here, and I got to make sure that I'm saying your name correctly. Bogomil Baranoski. Am I okay so far? Or
Perfect.
Bogomil Baranoski is an investor, entrepreneur, author, and speaker, and a New York City-based investment professional, partner and co-founder of Sicart Associates. Did I say Sicart Associates, a boutique investment firm catering to families and entrepreneurs. He was born in Poland, educated in Paris and Brussels. He currently lives in Manhattan. He flies planes, scuba dives, and sails. Well, congratulations to those rescuers in, what was it, Thailand for the scuba diving. That just comes to mind for sure. All right. Well, all right. Sicart Investments. Sicart Investments. All right. Very good. So I am looking at all this. I think I'm pretty much ready to rock. You ready to rock, Bogomil?
I'm ready.
All right. Very good. Well, we are live in 3, 2. We are live with Bogomil Baranoski. Bogomil, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready.
Bogomil Baranoski is an investor, entrepreneur, author, and speaker, a New York City-based investment professional, partner, and co-founder of Sicart Associates, a boutique investment firm catering to families and entrepreneurs. Bogomil was born in Poland, educated in Paris and Brussels. He currently lives in Manhattan. Bogomil flies planes, scuba dives, and sails. Bogomil Baranoski, welcome to the talk today.
Thank you for having me, Nathan. I'm very excited to be here.
Your talk is called The Great Investor in You. And I know, you buy any kind of software or training or course or book on investing, and it just seems like they're all trying to outdo one another in terms of being harder and more complicated and having some kind of special secret sauce. What I love about your talk is you made it very, very simple. And you go against some of the prevailing wisdom in terms of just making things simple. My favorite quote in your talk is, "It's a big world. Why not own a small piece of it?" Bogomil, please take us behind the talk.
I love it, and I love the quote. It's very funny because I was going over the talk one more time before we started speaking, and that's the quote I wrote down, and that's the quote I wanted to mention in this talk, that it's your world. Why wouldn't you own a small piece of it? And as you mentioned, the title was The Great Investor in You, and the whole idea was that we all have those 3 secret advantages over professional investors. I am a professional investor myself, but I want people to appreciate that they already have, starting off, 3 secret advantages that will help them to find investments, know when to buy them, and know how to invest. And there was a book that I read when I was still in college. It was called One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch that I mentioned in the talk. And it's a book that really changed my life. It's a book that explained to me that stocks are really small pieces of businesses that we can buy and own, that investors are not magical market wizards that know much more than we do, and that we actually already have huge knowledge about a lot of brands, services, and goods around us. Peter Lynch in his book actually emphasizes that he found a lot of his investment ideas shopping around a store. So he was looking at his shopping cart and finding inspiration. And I want people to appreciate how much they already know about the world around them, the brands around them. And I want them to appreciate that the fact that they're not sitting at a desk and they're not going to the conferences, and they're not talking to investment professionals. They can be original about their investment choices. And the last part of it is what I call mindfulness. When you're an investment professional, you're stimulated with all the financial media noise all the time. So you change your mind all the time, which works against you. And if you're an outsider, that's the third advantage that you have, which allows you to keep a healthy distance from all that noise. So you know what to buy, you know when, usually not when the investment professionals think, and you know how, because you're away from the noise and you can patiently wait for investments to work out. So that's the talk in a nutshell.
I mean, there's really kind of a whole industry of people coming alongside other people, advising them when to buy, when to sell, all of that sort of thing. There's a wealth management industry. And I love your empowering message because you kind of demystify all of these things. You let people know you can do it as long as you develop the traits necessary to be a patient, mindful investor. And I love how you had Warren Buffett and some of his teachers and proteges and coworkers, as well as some of their tested, tried, and true wisdom. Who, in addition to some of the people that you referenced in the talk, who have been formative in helping your philosophy of money management?
So actually, a senior partner of Sicard Associates, Francois Sicard, who has been my mentor for the last 14 years, he's the one that hired me out of grad school and worked with me for the last 14 years. And he worked with families that we work with. We advise them for the last 40, 45 years. And I'm actually sitting at a desk that belonged to his boss, the person that hired him in 1969. So we have quite a bit of history, although we're a new firm in this shape and form. We have 40, 50 years of history. And when you're working with families with multiple generations, you get to appreciate how much you can learn on your own, but how much you can tap into the mentors that can really share their experience with you. So he has definitely been a big part of it.
Bogomil, what have you learned about yourself in a job like this? You've been working this for the last 14 years. You've seen the ups. You started in the downs, right? And now we're a little bit more on the ups. But now with these tariffs, I'm seeing the repercussions of that. So what have you learned about being able to have integrity and also advise other people for their best interests in a job where you still do need to profit and be able to make a win-win all around?
That's interesting that you mentioned it. Right when I started, 08, 09 happened, which was a very painful experience, both for investors, but anybody that was working and losing jobs at the time. I had a lot of friends in New York that lost jobs. So it was a very humbling experience to see that things don't always work out and you have to be prepared for it. I think what has helped me and what really plays a big role in what we do is honest communication. So as long as we have an open channel with our clients and we explain what we expect, what's happening, we earn their trust. And trust is something that you earn over time. And communication is the best way, and true honest communication, which sometimes comes at the expense of our immediate gain as a business, right? So we do something for the clients that works for them in the long run. So we have a very different philosophy than a lot of the larger firms that want to, cross-sell, push all kinds of products, market. We're thinking about the long term, what kind of risks we're taking for them, and we're thinking about the whole family fortune that is pretty much impossible to make it all over again if it's lost. So there's a certain level of responsibility and communication, honest communication, I think is key.
You're a pretty cosmopolitan gentleman. You were born in Poland. You were educated over in Paris and Brussels. What's your view? Why the United States of America? Why are you here as opposed to the Netherlands or London or anywhere else? What's America have for you?
Well, I love New York City, and I don't know when the dream was born that I wanted to be here for at least some period of time. So I thought I'll come here for school, maybe for an internship. So 13, 14 years ago, I came here as an intern for 6 months. And I love the city, I love the job, and I knew that's the career I want to be in. So I just fell in love with the place, the people, the energy of New York City, and I knew it had to be New York City. And to be more, to give you more details, it's just a wonderful city to live in. It's a big country with lots of opportunities. I think the American dream is still very much alive. I don't believe it's a lot of the things that you're hearing out there. And I know a lot of people that are realizing their dreams in all kinds of ways here in the US. And from an investment perspective, it's a big liquid stock market where you have all kinds of opportunities, all kinds of choices. So it's still the biggest and most appealing stock market out there that offers a lot of opportunities for somebody that's managing family fortunes.
Well, we've been enjoying this talk with Bogomil Baranoski. His talk is called The Great Investor in You. And Talk Universe, don't go anywhere because we're going to pivot and be right back for you in the Blitz Round. And we're back. It's time for the Blitz Round with Bogomil Baranoski. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to ask Bogomil a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent branded talk. First off, were you selected to speak, or did you apply?
I applied. I wrote an application, and the host, the organizer, told me, you're exactly who we're looking for. So it was a match made in heaven. We had a great conversation, a couple of video calls. I was very glad. It was the perfect audience. It was at a university, younger crowd. So I applied, but it was a perfect match.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I'm a blender. For this specific speech, I memorize much more than I usually do when I speak. I like to improvise because it comes from the heart, but I had only 18 minutes, and I had so much to say, so I felt I can't improvise all of it.
So when you walk out on stage, Bogomil, did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
So I was nervous sitting in my seat, ready to speak. And when I got up on the stage, it was 120 people in the audience. I don't know what happened, but I felt that that's where I belong. I have to be here. I have a message to share, and I'm passionate about this topic. And the nerves just went away, and I everything slowed down. I felt like a slow pace moment where you're exactly where you should be. So
nice.
That's how I felt.
Nice. Bogomil, what's a tip, technique, or a tool that helped you?
What I did was, once you're done writing the speech, which is already a process, and I rewrote my speech 100 times, I recorded it, and then I listened to it on my phone over and over again, walking to work, doing anything else. And I listened to it possibly over 100 times, and that allowed me to feel even more that the words belong to me, and I'm ready to deliver them when I'm on stage. So that definitely helped me, and I think I would recommend it to anybody preparing for a big speech.
Here's the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk that you actually had to cut out?
That's a good one. So you might not notice, but there's one 5-second moment that was cut out when I was having issues with the microphone, and they cut it out, which is very nice and smooth. In the moment, it felt like it was a whole minute of me trying to figure out something got stuck there, and it was actually 5 seconds. They cut it out. You can't see it, so I'm glad they did that, but that's a little secret that nobody knows.
We've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Bogomil Baranoski, and before we go over to the final word of advice in just a moment, want to let you know where you can see and watch this talk. You can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com, or you can type into YouTube, The Great Investor in You. And we also want to let you know where we can go to be able to connect with Bogomil. Bogomil, I actually don't have that in front of me, so where can we go? What's the website that we can go to visit you?
It's my first name and my last name, so it's Bogumil and BARANOWSKI.com. I'm hoping you're going to put in.
I'm going to put it in the show notes so that we don't have to remember all of that stuff when people are driving or lifting weights or doing whatever they're doing on the podcast right now. So we will be back in just one moment for the final word of advice. And we're back with the final word of advice with Bogomil Baranoski for us, Talk Universe.
As much as investing can be intimidating, I would recommend everyone to start with the smallest step. So start with a $1, but start today. And then I really like the idea that you get to own a small piece of the world that's around you. Just go ahead and start.
Bogomil Baranoski, thank you so much for cutting some time out of your busy schedule and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe today.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
All right, that's a wrap. Great job. Now, we are still broadcasting, but you can loosen up the tie that you don't have on, and so will I. right now. Let's do this. Now I want to be really sensitive, Galya and Heather. I'm unmuting the both of you. Galya, are we okay on time? Because I know you have additional meetings and stuff, and I've got you on kind of last. I'm making.
Is it okay if I go next?
Are you? Do you have a hard stop right at the end of the hour?
I can probably delay them because it's you need 30 minutes, right?
No, it's shorter than that. But Heather, over to you. Do you have any flexibility if I go over?
I have a hard stop at 12.
You have a hard stop also. Okay, so let's continue in the original order, but we're actually making good enough time. I'm doing faster interviews than I ever have in my life. And Bogomil, I'm going to mute you. You can do what the others did, put a static face up there, or you can stay, watching and enjoying this. Feel free to do whatever. And then Galya, we'll get over to you ASAP. And Heather, are you pretty much ready to rock?
I am ready to rock.
Awesome. Well, I am pulling up my spreadsheet here. I'm thinking, why do I do this to myself? But then the other part of me says, well, because I can interview 3 people with quality interviews in an hour instead of 1 or 2 people in an hour. And there's like 100,000 of us, those of us that are TEDx alumni. There are over 100,000 of us out there. So it's Heather Bischoff. Let me practice your bio very quickly. Heather Bischoff is a fresh voice for companies seeking higher employee engagement and retention. As a thought leader with over 15 years in organizational management, Heather aligns a company and its people with their core values and sustainable business models. She has an innovative leadership style, managing teams across the United States in both on-site and virtual environments, maintaining high retention. A highly skilled mediator who points companies in the right direction, building bridges between leadership and the skilled workforce. And let me see. Oh, I'm looking for websites, and I'm having a hard time finding them. So where's your website, Heather?
Dragonflydirection.com.
Dragonflydirection.com. All right, great. So that's all we need right there. Are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to go.
All right, we're ready to go in 3, 2. We are live with Heather Bischoff. Heather, are you ready to talk?
I am ready to talk, Nathan.
Heather Bischoff is a fresh voice for companies seeking higher employee engagement and retention. As a thought leader with over 15 years in organizational management, Heather aligns companies and their people with their core values and sustainable business models. Heather has an innovative leadership style, managing teams across the United States in both on-site and virtual environments, maintaining high retention. A highly skilled mediator who points companies in the right direction, building bridges between leadership and the skilled workforce. Heather Bischoff, welcome to the talk.
Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Now, your talk is called How Asking the Right Question Can Change Your Life. And man, isn't that the case where we are today? The questions we ask determine the quality of the answers that we get, and really can make the difference between us zigzagging, spinning around in circles, or actually charting a course to success. What I love about your talk is that you get very authentic and personal. You also dive into some data about belief systems, and then finally you kind of tie the whole thing together and let people know the power of asking the right questions in terms of steering your life and many other companies to where they are today. So please, Heather, take us behind the talk.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, the talk is definitely a passion project of mine, because of my own personal experience and just looking at how do people overcome obstacles and how do they get to achieve a life that they want to have. And there's so many people who will say, oh, well, that's a pipe dream, or I can't have that because of XYZ. And I'm living proof that is not the case. So for me, this was really the hardest part of putting this together was my research on belief. Belief is, it's very subjective. So it's kind of, how do you prove one's belief? And finding the research from Boston University was such a huge help in my case, in making the case for, hey, this is a real thing. And Boston University did a study on this, and our beliefs really are something that come from something greater than ourselves, and they're there before we're ever, brought into this world.
So it's not nurture, it's nature, in other words.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Now, this is probably normally a blitz round question, but I love that you had the data, because a couple things it did. Number one, it gave us some data. Number two, it made it a lot less subjective and less about Heather, much more about the ideas that you were presenting out there. So Talk Universe, whenever you get the opportunity to include real data in your presentation, it's going to make you look good as a candidate, and it's going to make you look good once you're accepted and giving the talk. My question to you, Heather, is that something that you had put into your proposal for the talk, or is that something that other people encouraged you to fortify your talk with?
That's also a great question, Nathan. I had the opportunity of working with a speaking coach who had actually said, you need to have data. And that was probably the hardest thing for me, because it's not the norm for me. I'm much more of an extemporaneous speaker, and finding the data and then really dwindling down, pages and pages and pages of this research project to, kind of come up with the points was challenging for me. But I also agree with you. It made a big impact in the actual talk.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it a pain? On the one hand, on the front end, it's a pain to do all the research, or it can be a pain. Some people love the data, but then they struggle. Those types of people struggle with the authenticity and, bringing people behind your life and sharing, the vulnerable things. And so it can be a pain, but I mean, I watched your talk and I'm like, wow, this is great. They have some data here. Heather's bringing some data. She's tying it all together. This is a great talk. So, I mean, I love what you close with. I love that quote, God doesn't make junk. I love this whole idea of we really have to believe in ourselves, even if bad things happen to us, even if we do things that maybe, are regretful, or things happen to us that are regretful. We can always choose, and we can always choose to have a high view of ourselves and rise above some of these challenges. So really, what went in behind your talk? Why did you choose to talk about this as opposed to, management or some of the other amazing things that you do, Heather?
For me, without the belief, nothing else really matters, because life really is about choices. And so whether you're talking about managing your team in a corporate environment, or changing your, relationship, or, relationship with your kids, parenting, all sorts of things, it's all about choices. And if you don't really understand what you believe or why you believe what you believe, there's huge implications to that. And I've worked with so many people who will say, I can't do this. And I will ask them, well, who told you that, or why? And a lot of times they don't know, or, you just ask people just different questions about what they're saying and what they believe. And when you ask them, where did that come from? And again, like I did this for myself, and just looking at, why do I believe these things about culture, society, myself, work, all those types of things. And when I started to, pull the layers, away, I realized that those were not my beliefs at all. Those were beliefs that were passed down to me from all sorts of people. And if it's my life, then I get to choose what I believe and what I don't believe.
Well, and the powerful thing right there, Heather, it just ties right back into your talk, because all the things, the fundamental things that the Boston University study discovered was all nature beliefs, things that are hardwired into us. And I love how you kind of flirted with the idea that we're spiritual beings. You didn't really, try to scientifically prove that, which I don't know how you scientifically prove that. So good for you for kind of flirting with the idea. And I love how all of the nurture, I don't even want to say the nurture beliefs, because they weren't nurturing beliefs. They were harming beliefs. Those were all things that you realized realize that you picked up along the way, that I picked up along the way, that we all pick up along the way. So I love how, the real direction of your talk and the things that you have in there really support one another in a very powerful way. Anything, am I just discovering that, or did you work, behind the scenes rather purposefully to make sure that they all lined up in that way?
No, I did not. That was
You did not?
No,
Ah.
I mean, I just worked, I had a speech that I had tried to draft it. The funny story is I was asked to do the talk in February and could not think of anything. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? And then I had the privilege of going to Julia Child's country home in Provence, France in July.
Oh my.
And was feeling so inspired. And so that's kind of where I wrote the speech. And then in September, which was like a month before the talk, had an opportunity, a friend, kind of connected me with a speech coach who kind of looked over it and essentially had me rewrite the whole thing. Which was very, very alarming. And so, he was just like, this is such a good and important topic. Like, it just needs to be, really succinct. And so he gave me some pointers, and it was probably a week before the talk that I actually had it finalized. And I used the research as the core to just kind of tie all of the personal things in, essentially.
We've been enjoying this conversation with Heather Bischoff. Her talk is called How Asking the Right Questions Can Change Your Life. And what a fun delving behind the talk we're having. We're going to be right back with Heather Bischoff in just a moment in the Blitz Round. And we're back. It's the Blitz Round, and we are ready to rock. Heather Bischoff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to add my own Blitz Round question. You just told us in the last segment that you had to rewrite your entire speech. Are you glad that you did that or not?
I am glad that I did that.
Why?
Well, because it was so much more, learning how to do this, TED Talk is so different than doing any other kind of speaking that I do. And TED Talks are really about storytelling. If I would have gone with my first version, it would have been way more focused on me, and people probably would have been bored out of their minds versus, adding in the research and focusing it really around the research and what the research said made for a much more compelling story.
Talk Universe, I want you to pay attention to that. Making the talk about the research and your own story fortifies and makes it so interesting because it's not all about that person. So powerful thing. Heather, are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I would say that I'm a blender. I will definitely concur to Bogomil and how he normally I am very extemporaneous, just kind of go off the cuff. But for this particular talk, I really wanted it to be right on point and polished. So I did memorize it because it was too important not to.
Now, you walk out on stage, Heather. Did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
I was in the zone, Nathan.
In the zone? What does that feel like?
It feels incredible to me. I loved it. It was amazing, and would absolutely do it again in a heartbeat. My endorphins get going, and I'm just like, yes, we're on fire.
What's a tip, technique, or a tool that helped you get in the zone and stay in the zone?
So I made a playlist on my my music, essentially. That was just music that was going to pump me up and really inspire me. So while I was sitting in the audience, I was listening to this music that was just getting me all fired up. And so that's what I did.
I have a name for that. I call that and it comes from, I think, the last Olympics. Who was it? Michael Phelps, the Michael Phelps stare. If you remember that meme where he was listening to something and he had just a terror look of terror, not of being personally afraid, but that everybody else seeing that look would be filled with terror because that was an intense look. What is the most painful part of your talk that you actually had to cut out?
So it's not necessarily something that had to cut out, but something that most people don't know is the schedule was printed incorrectly for the TEDx event that day, and I had people coming from all over to attend my talk, and they were actually running about an hour and a half ahead of schedule. So I did my talk, and probably about 20 minutes after I did my talk, my guests arrived. And so the cool thing, though, is that I was able to kind of, because people were so upset and really disappointed. And I went to the organizer and just said, hey, would it be possible for me to do it again? And they said yes. So I actually did my talk twice that day.
Wow.
So that my guests could hear it.
Okay, well, Talk Universe, that's great that worked. I don't know that works in every situation, but I'm really glad that worked. We've been enjoying the Blitz round with Heather Bischoff, and in just a moment we're going to pivot over to the final word of advice. But before we do, we want to let you know where we can go to actually watch her excellent talk. How asking the right question can change your life. You can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. And if you want to connect with Heather, you can go to DragonflyDirection.com, DragonflyDirection.com. And in a moment, we'll be right back with Heather Bischoff and the final word of advice. And we're back. It's time for the final word of advice for all of us in Talk Universe.
My final advice would be this: life is now, and we all have choices to make. So rather than wait for later or wait until all of your circumstances are in order, just, leap and the net will appear.
Heather Bischoff, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right, and that's a wrap. Great job. Great interview, great job. We're starting to get the likes and the looks and the loves on the eCam thing. Galya, how you doing over there? You're so stinking patient.
I am.
Excellent.
Fine.
Very good. Okay, so now we can do an interview right now, or we can, if you absolutely need to reschedule, we can find another time or whatever, or I'm happy to do it right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, very good. Awesome. Well, you get the award. You get the flexibility award, and actually all three of you get the flexibility award, because Zoom does not get the flexibility award right now, but go figure. Had a little bit of issue there. I'm still there. I've got this little thing in the back of my head saying, but I'm bothered. Why am I bothered? Because I don't know what the issue was with Zoom, even though you've all tried to tell me. So that's my goal for today and tomorrow. All right, let's zip over here, Galya, and practice your bio very quickly. Galya Westler, am I good so far? I said your name correctly, Galya? Okay. Galya Westler wants to launch a movement for global recovery from social media addiction. Galya is a technology visionary and entrepreneur. Her latest startup is Plazas Builder. Did I say that correctly?
Plazas, yeah.
Plazas Builder, okay. An online tool for building mini social apps that connect people. All right, excellent. All right. Plazas. All right. Galya Westler, Plazas. All right. We're good. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right. And you are what? You're calling from like Hong Kong, right? Is that where you are right now?
Right now I'm in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Okay.
Right now, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are live.
Midnight.
We are live midnight.
I'm about to turn into a pumpkin.
You're going to turn into a pumpkin. Okay. Well, here we go. All right. We are live in 3, 2. We are live with Galya Westler. Galya, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready, Nathan.
Galya Westler wants to launch a movement for social recovery from social media addiction. Galya is a technology visionary and entrepreneur. Her latest startup is Plazas Builder, an online tool for building mini social apps that connect people. Galya Westler, welcome to the talk today.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, just so that everybody knows, Galya is calling in from Hong Kong today. We've got a little bit of a weak Wi-Fi connection, and we're just going to stick it out because I loved your talk. It's called Social Media Obesity and Loneliness. And I love what you talk about, social media addiction that's happening all over the place, and I love your solution for it, that we overcome our addiction to social media, not by quitting it cold turkey, because we need to connect with people, but we need to use it differently. We need to use it in an authentic way. We need to use it with passion, and we need to realize that we need an excuse. People need an excuse to actually connect with one another. So you've got all kinds of fun things in your talk. Social media, obesity, and loneliness. Most interesting to me is how you went incognito into dating apps, and you were amazed at the amazing, crazy stuff that people shared. Now, keep it PG, okay? Keep it PG. But you found out some very interesting things. That might be an interesting place to start, Galya. Or you can pass, and we'll talk about something else.
Well, first of all, I have to say that, I was part of building these apps. So, yeah, sure, I would be a user of these apps, but I look at it from a different way because I help build, so many apps like that.
Sure. So you've helped build all of these apps. Can you take us behind the talk? I mean, I love the idea of, instead of, it seems like everybody kind of, sounds like one's mother or father and says, hey, just take the toys away, shut down the internet, shut down the connections. But you validate our need as humans to connect. We need to connect with other people. We need to do it in an authentic way. So if you could just briefly summarize your talk and give us a little bit of context as to what you shared, and then we'll go off and explore beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give you some background. So I come from a technology background, which is why when I delivered this talk about social media and loneliness, and I have to say that the title was not a good title, because, Google is basically indexing the keywords. Those keywords don't always come back with loneliness. And it almost came as a joke, because I was saying all the time that people are pigging out on selfies of attention. Like, everywhere that we go, we do selfies, and we're selfie from that bottle of water right now. But, it's just pigging out, and that's why I call it social media obesity, because we are over-consuming and we're over-selfing. That's what we're doing. And the way I came about to this talk is, from a technology perspective, because I was part of building hundreds of apps and websites and backend systems, and actually particularly building private social networks for brands to connect with their audiences. I discovered that as a user, but also as somebody that builds these apps, you don't even know, all the research in the world doesn't show you the amount of addiction that's out there. And then, when I was actually approached by the producer and the volunteers in Stanley Park, which is one of the big TEDx organizers in Vancouver, and they approached me and they said, we want somebody in the technology section. And when I came back to them, I said, how about the topic of addiction to technology, and in particularly addiction to social media, because my world is social media. And they said, okay, that's great. Now, you always ask the question, Nathan, what happens behind the scenes? Let me tell you what happens behind the scenes. I was told that I need to talk about addiction. I need to do the research. And the research, what does it tell you? You have to stop Facebook for 30 days. Remember that line in the talk?
Yeah.
And what happens after 30 days?
New habit, right?
What happens after 30 days? You're back to being on Facebook.
Ah!
Right? And so when I was doing the research, I wrote my script maybe 150 times. And then at the last minute, I changed my script without even telling them, which I can jump back to that at the end when you're going to ask me about the different tricks that I did. But what happened is at the beginning, we talked about the addiction to technology. And my mentor at the time, my coach, he said to me, you have to tell people to put the phone away. And I said to him, no, I don't. I don't put the phone away. You know, like I'm addicted to my phone. This is my air supply. I even take my phone. I mean, I even take my phone to the shower. You know, because you gotta listen to music when you take a shower. So if I'm addicted, how can I say to other people that they're also addicted to stop doing this bad habit? But actually, it's not a bad habit if you realize what you're doing and if you look at things from a different perspective, right? So because we're building, like the first version of Plazos, to build apps for communities to connect with each other, right? The premise of what we're doing and what I believe in is connecting in tribes, connecting in groups, which is basically what the talk is all about. So I talk about the addiction, and then the way I bring the solution is not based on what the researchers are saying, stop using social media. I say continue using social media, but in a different way. Use it within the tribes that you belong to.
Absolutely. So we've been enjoying this talk. It's actually a little bit of a bonus segment with Galya Westler. Her talk is called Social Media, Obesity, and Loneliness. You can find out more about Galya over at her website, which, again, I don't have in front of me. But what is your website, Galya?
It's plazos.com.
Plazos.com. Plazos.com, and this has been a special bonus session with Galya Westler. Thank you so much, Galya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I just made a little bit of an executive decision there, Galya. The internet connection is actually very, very slow, and it just does not sound very good. Yeah, it's been kind of slow, and it kind of does this bat thing every time you finish something. It kind of does this bat like buzz. So we're all kind of at the top of the hour. I know you've got another meeting, and so what I'd like to do is invite you, just schedule another appointment in the future when you're not in Hong Kong, when you're a little, well, yeah. Yeah, this is a little bit tough with that. So I thought that would probably be the best thing to do. You'll have a little bit of a bonus segment, and people can still share this, but it's a little hard to listen to, and I want to be sensitive to Talk Universe and everybody else. I want to be sensitive to Bogomil also, who's a trooper. He's still right there. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much, and I am...
Thank you.
I am going to give Bogomil the opportunity. If he's still around, he may be somewhere out. There he is. He's waving. I'm going to unmute Bogomil.
It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It was very interesting to listen. I watched your TED Talk, so I enjoyed it. And I agree with the social media addiction. I think it's a real problem for all of us, and people don't talk about it enough.
All right. So, hey, Talk Universe, we're going to end this Facebook Live. Feel free to share the message for Heather, for Bogomil, and for Galya. Let's share it and help them spread their message. And you can also look forward to the podcast episode to actually drop in about 5 to 6 weeks. I think we're about 5-6 weeks out. And I'm going to go offline privately with Galya and Bogomil if they can still stick around. Take care, everybody.